What's up, everybody? Welcome to the channel. This is the Holiday the Everything YouTube channel. Basically, I just want to do this video because I have a lot of people, friends, family, and even random people ask me how would you go about sanding a bumper that's been primered. So first thing you want to do, you want to make sure you have it secured to a stand properly. So we just use like wire. It's called baling wire. You can get it at Home Depot. But you don't need a stand. You can get one on Google if you really wanted to use a stand. But you can put it over a trash can. If you feel like doing that, you probably won't be able to tie it down properly and really have it so you can work securely. But it is what it is. If you're just trying to do it on the side or something you want to do at home, you can pretty much do it everywhere. The wire's just to help so you have no maneuverability so it doesn't get irritating, you know? So the first thing you want to do with a primered bumper, this has been primed in 2K. It's a 4-to-1 setup. It's four parts primer, 1 part activator. We put a little reducer in it and fisheye eliminator, like a cap full of that. Basically, you want to sand the flat parts with the machine. This is called an orbital sander. You can buy these at Harbor Freight. This is a Snap-on one. I'm not sponsored by them, but the Harbor Freight ones work just as good, and I'm pretty sure you can pay for a lifetime warranty with those ones. Whenever you're sanding anything, any surface with a machine, you always want to keep the pad flat. So I'm going to do a spot real quick, and you do want to wear a respirator. I have one right here, so I'm just going to do a small part. I'm not going to put it on so you guys can hear me. But you want to do the flat parts or the whole primer surface. You can do like 320. I like to do 400 because it leaves a smoother finish. The more grittier, the more, because primer is very soft. So if you were to do like a 220 on it, you're going to have a hell of a time trying to get the sand scratches back out of it. So I'm going to use 400 on mine. We just use 3M sandpaper, but Harbor Freight also sells sandpaper, and it's a lot cheaper. I think it's like 20 bucks a roll maybe. You won't need many pieces to actually do a whole bumper. But I'm going to give you an example on how to properly put the machine on the panel so you don't dig into it, or because you can leave marks on this very easily with these machines. So also, there's an adjustment on most of these sanders. You want the air pressure to be coming through the machine at a lower pace. You don't need it going super hard or super fast. It actually sands better on a lower speed. You don't want it too low because it won't sand at all, but like almost on the low setting pretty much. You'll be able to adjust it as you go, as you try it. Whenever you're putting a machine also on a panel, you never want to start the machine spinning first. That is a bad idea. That's going to damage the panel right before you even start the project. So you always want to start the machine after you put it on the bumper. I'll show you what I mean. Alright, so you see I kept the machine flat and level. Now I'm going to show you what it looks like close up. So on this bumper, this black stuff is spray paint. We call it Guy Coat. It's basically on there so when you're sanding the primer, once that's off and then you just see flat gray compared to the black spray paint, the dots, the Guy Coat, whatever you want to call it, it's just made to know you have a level surface. So the reason you want to keep it only on the flat panel, because if you were to put that that sander on these edges, you're going to mess the body line up. So whenever you're doing any surface, primer, regular paint, brand new metal fenders, whatever, you never want to put the machine on any edge, only on the spots it can fit flat. because then you'll make a whole new problem. Then you'll have to end up using body filler and stuff like that. So as long as you keep the machine flat, use a little bit of guide code after you prime it, it's going to help you know when the surface is actually smooth. So now that we got that part flat, you'll basically do that the same. See, I started sanding the top part on the flat spot. I'll do that on all the flat parts I can fit it at, and then the parts you cannot fit the machine at, you're going to want to do by hand. So, and you don't have to really put a lot of pressure. With the machine, you put the less pressure that you can, the machine does the work for you. That's what it's there for. Also, when you sand these edges by hand, you don't want to dig into it either, because you can still mess the body lines up. So now I'll show you how to properly do the edges, and where you're not going to mess it up. And I'm going to show you how to get close in here, because you always want to make sure anything you sand has to be scuffed properly, or the material you put on, whether you're priming it, whether you're putting paint on, or whether maybe even when you're going to prep something to put the body filler on. If you do not have it scuffed properly, the material will not stick, and it will peel, and it will look like shit. So anything you ever sand, you want to scuff edge to edge. Anything the paint will get on needs to be scuffed properly. So I'll show you how to do the edge, and then I'll come in a little closer and show you how I do the lip. A lot of people would tape this off because it's chrome, right? I've been doing it so long, I've learned how to really watch and be careful and just pay attention to the details, so I'm not scraping this chrome piece. But if it makes you feel more comfortable, painter's tape, whether it's blue's normally for houses, you can buy yellow tape, that's normally for the automotive stuff. So let me show you how to do the edge properly. Alright, so this is a Scotch-Brite. There's two different kinds. One's red in color, and that simulates 220 grit sandpaper. Another Scotch-Brite you can get is gray. That's to emulate like wet sanding paper, like 1000. So when you're gonna do the edges, especially where there's chrome, you just want to look real close to where you're sanding and just make sure with your eyes you can see that it's not scratching this chrome piece. And then you get in there with the red Scotch-Brite. That's how you're gonna get your edges most of the time. Now, you will have edges where the paint is peeling, and then you're gonna have to use something like 220 grit to knock it smooth, 180. But normally if it comes primed, all that stuff should be taken care of. Any peeling, any rock chips. So let me show you how to do the body line properly. You can use 400 and wrap it up in the Scotch-Brite, or you can use the red Scotch-Brite, because everything I sand that actually is primed, I use dry stuff first. So you're just gonna go along this edge, barely any pressure, knock it smooth, because there's one more step to this process that we're actually gonna do, and it's gonna make it look so good. Every primer thing I ever sand, I do 320 or 400 dry. Use the red Scotch-Brite to get the scuffing areas around the edges. But then the final step I always do, you want to use wet sandpaper. So now that we have it all sanded in 400, we'll get some wet sandpaper at 400 grit also, and we're going to go over that whole primered area with 400 wet. And I'll show you how you do that too. You're going to need like a towel or a t-shirt. So now you got it all scuffed up and it's flat, the guide code's gone. When you do the wet sanding, you're going to want like a towel or a t-shirt that you can soak, because you're going to need to pour water on it at the same time that you're doing the sanding. So I got me an old ripped up t-shirt right here. I'm just going to use that. And then we got some 400 wet sandpaper right here made by Norton. You can get it from 3M, but you can also buy it at Harbor Freight. I'm not sure what the company name is that they use. It's way cheaper to go that route, unless you're doing this all the time. But if this is just something you want to do on the side, I would recommend getting most of my materials from Harbor Freight, honestly, because it works, it does. So we're gonna get the shirt wet, we're gonna take a gray Scotch-Brite and put it in the middle of the sandpaper, and then you're just gonna wrap one side around it, and then tightly wrap this other side around that and make like a soft block pretty much. We'll get this wet. I'm gonna get the panel wet where we already sanded the guy coat off. Normally you want to get a blower, blow the dust off before you do the wet sanding part. So I'll show you that as well. These are also available at Harbor Freight. They're just made to fit into the coupler on your air hose. So I'm gonna blow the dust off so we'll have a clean surface to wet sand on. Easy enough. Now I'm gonna wet sand the front flat part of the panel, and then I'm gonna show you what that looks like and how smooth. You should get like a glass mirror finish in the primer. So you know when the paint gets applied to it, it should also leave a flat, really, so there's stuff called orange peel. So the process I'm showing you how to do it, if you want the best finish you can have, and it to look the best you can when the paint's applied, this is the best way to do it with the wet sandpaper for the final prep. Now, when you're wet sanding, you always want to keep the wet sandpaper on the flat part of your palm, and you don't want to use like your fingers like that, because this is so soft on the inside that you can actually finger fuck it. And when you do that, it's gonna leave like lines, like gouge marks. So you always want to be wet sanding with your palm. Sometimes there's soft blocks you can also buy, but for something like this, you really don't need a block. So always keep it on the flat part of your palm. Keep the surface wet. And then I'll show you right now from an angle what that will look like. It should have a glass finish. I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but hopefully, let's see. I'm gonna clean the surface off and let's see what that looks like. Yeah, it looks good. I don't know if the camera is gonna pick it up, but it has a real smooth glass finish, and from my angle you can actually see this ladder back here in the reflection. But so that's basically how you would do a primered bumper. If you get a brand new black factory bumper that comes primered, you prep it the same way pretty much as you would a regular primered bumper. But I'm gonna do it. If you guys like this kind of content, let me know. I'm new to this, obviously. I'll get better as I go, but if you can like and subscribe, what I'll do is, when we're gonna go and paint this bumper, I'm gonna show you the process the painter takes, what he applies and how he paints it, and what the after effect will look like from wet sanding a primered bumper. And I'll have more teaching videos in the future. And also, if you like truth, I'm really a truther, conspiracy theorist, whatever you could say, so we can get in talks about that or whatever, but just like, share, and subscribe, and let me know if you like this kind of material. See you in the next one.